Chocks, Hangar. Getting a bit bluesy there. Might know that song, maybe not. That's Louisiana Red, Alabama Train. Great blues song. Check it out on YouTube. Fantastic harmonica playing. Much better than mine. Anyway, why am I playing that tune, eh? Well, that's about sort of hopping freight trains to get home. And yeah, freight trains, freight planes, sort of similar. Because today what we're reviewing is, this is a request from one of my YouTube subscribers. He said that there were a lot of varied reviews of a program that we are covering today that gave a bit of a mixed opinion on it, and he knew that I liked it, so he said, well, why don't you do a review of it? And that is Air Hauler from Just Flight. Been out a long time, seen its second version. I really like that program. I think it's a great add-on for Flight Simulator, so we're going to have a look at that. So let's go. Hey, you ready?
Okay, so first up, a big shout out to one of my YouTube subscribers, Railway Bobby, who suggested that I do a review of Air Hauler 2, because I'm always banging on about it, and nobody's ever really done a sort of detailed review of it. So let's crack on. Now, if you don't know Air Hauler, I'm presuming you do, but if you don't know Air Hauler, here we are looking at the product page for it on the Just Flight website, and you can see that it's got a description of it and what it entails. So it's a fairly small program. It's 265 megabytes in size, and it costs $32.99. There is a X-Plane 11 version of it under development. I don't know when that's actually going to be out, but you can see that at present Air Hauler 2, because it's the second version, is compatible with Flight Simulator X, both the original version of it and the Steam edition, plus it's compatible with P3D version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, and although it doesn't list it on the product page, I have it working with P3D version 5, and we'll see how you can get that working with P3D v5 when I get to look at it. So this is the second version of Air Hauler, and it's been out a while. It came out in 2016, so that's 4 years ago. The previous version, version 1 of Air Hauler, came out in 2009, so that's 11 years ago now. But version 2, being 4 years old, most of the time with Flight Simulator products, when they get sort of like 4 years old, they start showing their age a little bit. But of course, Air Hauler is purely a graphical user interface that allows you to create stuff to use with your Flight Simulator. So the advantage of that is, even though it's been out a while, it doesn't really date, which is kind of cool. Now, you can see from the description here on the right hand side that it says, fly jobs between bases, buy or lease aircraft and create your own virtual airline, recruit pilots, build routes and look out for special humanitarian missions, trade cargo, commodities, own factories at your airports and buy parts. The possibilities really are endless. Now, obviously that's the advertising blurb for it, but I would say that that's a fairly fair description of it. So let's have a look at it in some detail. So I'll just minimize that, and there's my desktop shortcut for it. And so we'll click on that and crank it up, and there it goes. So you can see it doesn't take long to fire up. Now, when you fire it up initially, if you've never used it before, you won't see a record of a company in existence. But because I use it, you can see that I've got a company in existence, and it says my company name is Atlantic Bridge, my player name is Al. I haven't put a company logo on it. You could do if you wanted to, and it says I'm using FS version P3D version 4. That's not true. I'm using P3D v5, and we'll see how it can do that. Now, you can have more than one company if you want to, and in order to kind of demonstrate it and review it, what I am going to do is I am going to create a company from scratch and go through all of the things that entails. So I'm going to click on New Company there, boom, like that. And now this thing comes up. Now, starts off and asks you which flight simulator you want to use with Air Hauler 2. You can use FSX, you can use the Steam edition, prepared version 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now, you can use version 5. The easy way to do that is if you click on version 4, what you can do is you can just alter that where it says prepared version 3 to version 4. If you don't want to do that by editing that, what you can do is you can browse to your P3D version 5 folder, and then you can hit OK and it will pick it up. So despite the fact that it says I'm using P3D version 4, I'm not. I'm using version 5, and we'll see that. So having set that up, chosen what sim I want to use, and hit next. This thing comes up. It asks me to enter a company name, so we'll call it Chocks Hangar Review, like that. And your pilot handle, Chalk, and your name, Al Baby. So there we go. And I've got that. Now you've got the options of how you're going to start up. And you get plenty of options. So you've got easy passengers, where you start with 2 million quid. Now notice here that the prices are in pounds sterling. That is an option that you can change. You can have it read in dollars or something else if you want to. But since I'm in the UK, I have it reading in pounds sterling. Not that it really matters, but there you go. So easy passengers, you can start off with 2 million quid, a 60% reputation, and a passenger configured Constellation L49A, 049A I should say. Or you can start on easy. Now it says easy but not passengers, so you're going to get a Constellation in the cargo configuration. Same stuff. You can go on medium, 1 million quid, 50% reputation, and a Muni Bravo with a G1000 GPS. Hard, 500,000, 40% reputation, and a Piper Cherokee 180. Career, 250 grand, a 20% reputation, and a Piper Cherokee 180. And Nomad, 1,000 quid, a 20% reputation, and a Piper Cherokee 180. Now, Nomad mode is a little bit different. All of the other modes that we can see on there will let you do pretty much what you want. Nomad is a little bit more restrictive in how you kind of fly around. You can, if you want to, pick one of these options and then switch it a little bit later on. So you can start in Nomad mode and then say, oh no, I don't want to be in Nomad mode anymore. Because Nomad mode is a little bit restrictive, but it's intended to have you fly around all over the place and explore. Now, just for the purposes of demonstration, what I'll do is I'll put it on easy, but what I will do is there is an option here that says immediately sell your aircraft in exchange for 8,429,172 cash instead. Now, I'm not going to tick that, which means that I'll start off owning a Lockheed Constellation. But if you prefer to use a different aircraft, I don't know, you've got an add-on aircraft that you want to use, you can tick that option. We'll see why I haven't done that in a moment. So I'm going to hit next. Now, it asks you where you want to start because you have to have a base of operations, so you've got to choose your first base. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to choose this. Now, this is one of the nice things about Air Hauler, or Air Hauler 2 as more correctly, since that's the one that we're reviewing, is that if you've got any nice airport scenery, you can have your base be at the airport scenery, and you can open other bases where you've got scenery, so you're always flying into nice airports and not using the default ones. Now, I will do that. I will go to EGGP, which is Liverpool John Lennon Airport in the United Kingdom. It's got a reasonably okay runway. The runway is 7,500 feet. So not everything can get off that runway, but most things can. You can pick whichever airport you want, but I'll pick that one. So, boom, like that. Now, choose starting base location, Liverpool John Lennon Airport, 80 feet above sea level, blah, 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 blah. And you've got that, and you can see whether it's got on there. If you, at this stage, go, oh, you know, I want something with a longer runway, I want something with a 10,000-foot runway that's a bit nearer, what I could do is I could go back and pick something else. So I could hit choose airport and maybe pick Manchester, which is 35 miles to the west. That's got a 10,000-foot runway, so you wouldn't be limited on what you can operate from there. But I'll stay with Liverpool John Lennon, and we'll hit next like that. Now, do you want to use Air Hauler 2 for weather generation, or do you want to use an external program? And I'm going to say get our Air Hauler 2 to use the weather generation, because P3D version 5 is a brand new program, and the weather generation programs for it aren't working well with it. Normally I would use real world weather, and I'd use Active Sky or something like that, but for the moment I'm going to use Air Hauler 2 weather generation. Now, I'm going to ignore water airports with water runways. You can have a base that's a seaplane base if you want to, But obviously you don't want air hauler generating jobs to seaplane bases if you're going to use land-based planes, and I'm going to use land-based planes, so I'm going to untick that, and we hit next. There is another option there, use network mode, where you can launch your flight simulator manually. Normally what happens is when you decide to fly a job in air hauler, it automatically cranks up your flight simulator for you, which we'll see in a moment or two. So I'm going to hit next. Now, next option, these options allows you to change how cargo jobs are generated. If sure, you leave it as is for now. Yeah? So job volume, you can have a lot of jobs generated, not many jobs generated. I'll have lots of jobs. You can change the distance that those jobs will be, an average distance. Now, it's not perfect, but let's say you start a company and you start out with a Cessna 172 or something like that. You do not want 3,000-mile flights and transatlantic flights. So what you would do if you intend to run with small planes is back that down a little bit. If you want to use things like 747s and DC-8s or something like that, things with a bit of long range, you can kick that a little bit longer. The longer distance the job, the more money you make, but the more time it takes to fly things, and the more difficulties you have with positioning stuff. Now, the size of the job is based on roughly the cargo aircraft in your fleet, but there is nothing to stop you flying your cargo jobs or whatever in more than one go. So you could have a plane that can only take 30,000 pounds of cargo, and there's a 60,000 pound cargo job. You could take half of it on one flight, fly back, go and get the other half if you wanted to. If you don't want to be doing that sort of thing, if you just want to be doing point-to-point stuff, you can back the size down a little bit. Now, internal jobs, this isn't really going to be affected at the moment. Internal jobs, what that refers to is if you've got more than one base, several bases, for example. I don't know, you saw me pick Liverpool John Lennon Airport, but I could pick, Charles de Gaulle. I could open a base there, LFPG, and then what I could do is I could say, right, I want plenty of internal jobs. What air hauler will do then is it will generate more jobs between those two bases, which is a more economical way to operate, because if you're flying jobs to and from your bases, it's going to be a little bit easier, and you're not going to have to position your aircraft all the time. Now, what airport sizes do you want to operate out of? Do you want to operate out of smaller ones or larger ones? Well, Liverpool John Lennon is not a massive airport, but it's not a smaller one, so I do want it to generate jobs for that airport. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that up quite a bit there. In fact, we'll take it all the way like that. So we hit next like that. That's it. You're ready to go. Click finish to open your company. You'll need to complete a type rating test in order to fly the aircraft that you've got. You can find the type ratings on your personal details page. More on that in a moment. So we hit finish like that, and it now starts generating stuff. What it will be generating is, you might be able to see something there appearing just a little bit ghosted out in the bottom right. It says Chocks has achieved the rank of wannabe, and his new salary is £0, because I'm not an employee of the company. It's my company that I've started up. So what it's doing is, you'll see that it says it's generating the marketplace. Now what that is it's generating all the available jobs. It's generate bit of a cheer like that. New humanitarian missions available, and you do not have a type rating for this aircraft. Do you want to take the type rating test now? No, I don't want to take it at the moment. Here's my company office. Now, what that generating stuff was doing is it was generating a list of jobs. It was generating them things in the marketplace for planes that are on sale, second-hand planes and things like that. Now, if you don't like this graphic interface, you can mess around with this. So before we look at anything, what we'll have a look at all of this stuff up the top. So you've got options there, right on the right-hand side. So I'm going to click on that. Now, you've got Office Designer. You can design your own offices, or alternatively, what you can do is you can start putting different skins on things like that, so you can play around with it. It says, oh, unhandled exception, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's actually a problem. It just does that sometimes, not very often. There's the manual that we can read if we want to. We can design offices. We can have different skins. So if you want to design your own picture for an office, you can do. These, incidentally, are clickable areas where you can play around with it. So you can see if I go on the globe, it says bases. If I go on the hat, it's pilots and operations. If I go on the computer screen, it's the jobs map. If I go on here, it's the passenger routes. If I go on there, available missions, and so on and so forth. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. You can use all this stuff up top, but so you can play around with the interface if you want to. Now, options wise, boom, we'll click on this. So, a bunch of tabs up at the top. Settings and path. Air hauler network settings. Use network mode if I want to go across a network. Flight sim settings. Flight sim version P3D V4. Now, it doesn't list version 5, but you can see there, flight sim path. C, program files, Lockheed Martin, prepared 3D version 5. So it is going to find the right one. That's just a thing that presumably they need to update on the interface. You can browse for that if you want to. You can override the flight pan path to go to another folder if you want to, and you can see use John Allard's airport charts if available for the airport. So that'll give you you know, sort of IFR charts for the airports if you want to. So you can play around with that if you want to. Map preferences, what do you want? Do you want your things to display in a different way? Do you want to use OpenStreetMap so that when you zoom in you can see streets and stuff like that? Do you want the zoom level visible on the job map? Yeah, can do if you want. Do you want to show the zoom in and out buttons on the maps? Yeah, why not? You can screw around with how the map appears. Now, general options. Boom, like that. Generate weather from air hauler. Yes. Show company fleet in the simulator. Now, what that is you start out with one aeroplane, but what you can do is you can have as many aeroplanes as you want. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can stay with a little humble Cessna 172 if you like, and just have it as a one-man operation. But you make more money if you get more planes. But what you can do is you can hire pilots, virtual pilots, to fly your planes for you. Now, so let's say I open a base in Paris, and I've already got a base in Liverpool, and I buy a 737 and I hire a couple of pilots to fly it. If they fly to Paris, well, on a cargo job or a passenger job, and I happen to fly to Paris at the same time as they are doing it, I will see their flight, their aeroplane, their 737, in the sim, coming in for a landing, taxiing in, going to the base. I'll see it unloading, I'll see it loading, eventually I'll see it go, and what have you. So any aircraft in your fleet, you can see them as AI aircraft. So that's kind of cool that you can do that if you want. It says use the ground proximity warning system prompts. So, you know, pull up 500 feet, blah, 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 blah. Do you want to prevent the cabin safety announcement on your aircraft? Now, I normally have cargo aircraft. I do have some passenger operations, so I might find the passenger announcements a bit annoying if I'm flying cargo planes. So I can say, yeah, prevent the cabin safety announcement. Also bear in mind that some add-on airplanes have their own built-in cabin safety announcements. So if you tick that, you're not going to have the ones that air hauler does clashing with the ones on your add-on airplane. Ask to update the fuel consumption figure after each flight. When you fly your aircraft, you have to buy fuel for it, and air hauler recognizes how much fuel you've used on your flight. So if you fly particularly economically, after you come in for a landing, it will recognize that you didn't use as much fuel as you normally do on that flight, and it will say, do you want to update the fuel consumption for that aircraft? You can do, or choose not to if you want. Announce sim messages via TTS. Well, you know, we'll see them on screen anyway, so I'm not going to worry about that. In-flight menu, keyboard shortcut, blah, blah, blah. So you can get the keyboard shortcut for that if you want to. Upload position when flying to air hauler global radar. That's basically a chat room that is built into air hauler, so that what can happen is your airplane can appear on a map with everyone else who's online flying in air hauler who's ticked that option, and there is a little chat room and you can talk to the other pilot. So you can say, oh, I've just come into to Paris Charles de Gaulle and there's really, really terrible winds here, so watch out if you're flying there, or that kind of thing. Now, below that you can see currency symbol. I did mention this, we can change that. So what we can do is we can change that. So you can see that what we can have is we can have euros, or we can have pounds or whatever. So if you prefer your own currency, you can have that if you want to. So, you know, if you're in South Africa or the US or what have you, you can have that. Now, cancel Nomad Mode. To leave Nomad Mode forever, click here. Now, I didn't start in Nomad Mode, so I haven't got that option. But if I had done, I could cancel it. Office template. Which one do you want? Show the click zones and hide the box description. So this is this backdrop here. You can have different templates. So you can choose from different templates if you want, and you can see that they're in there. So you know, if I want a different template, I can have that. Now, job creation options, I can get back to it. So if I decided, oh, actually no, I want, you know, shorter distance flights, I can choose that. Now, custom flight settings. Oh, got rid of the option screen there. I'll just pop the thing back up. Custom flight settings. You can add custom flight items here to clear the box for blah, 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 blah. So you can mess around with that if you want to for them. I'm not going to worry about that too much. So that was the options. Now, let's cut straight to the chase before we have a look at all of this stuff on here, because you can see that, you know, there's a lot of tabs on there and it might initially look confusing, but it's really not that hard. So notice that I've gone for the default template here, so it looks a little bit different, but this is still all of that. If you want. Now, obviously, if you've got a bit of an artistic bent, what you could do is you could create a screenshot from your flight simulator of your plane in its livery that you've got, and then you could have it looking like it's outside the window and stuff like that. There's all kinds of fun things that you can do by changing this interface. Now, so I'm going to go over to the left-hand side tab here, and you'll see that if I click on the little air hauler logo there, that's where I can exit it. I'm not going to do that, obviously, because we're reviewing it at the moment. So I'm going to hit cargo jobs and passenger routes. Now, this is the main one that you're going to be looking at most of the time. So there is an overview map that we can look at. And here it is. Now, you can see on there that there is my base, and there are all of the possible jobs that I can have at the moment. Like that. Now, I can tick a lot of options on here, so I can say draw passenger routes. I've not got any passenger routes created at the moment. Do I want range circles on there? Do I want to draw my fleet and my pilots? Yes, I do. So when I do that, it says Chock and is Lockheed L049 are at Liverpool John Lennon Airport. Now, when you've got a fleet of aircraft and they're dotted all over the globe, what you can do is that can be kind of handy to do that, because you can go, oh, where's me Airbus A320? Last time I saw it, it was in Italy somewhere, and then you can come down here and go, oh, I can see it's in Napoli or Rome or wherever, and such a body's flying it or what have you. So we've got that. Do you want to draw the airports? Yes or no? Like that, so we could see there the airports, or we can have that. Do you want to draw the missions? So if we take that, any missions that have been created, and do we want to draw the jobs? Well, we've already got that tick, so we can see that the jobs. So there's a lot of jobs in existence, and what we can do is we can look at those jobs here. So there's the overview map, and here's the available jobs tab. Now, you can list these in any way you want. You can list them from airports, from the two airports, so you can have from the start point or the destination point. You can have the distance. If you click these, incidentally, a couple of times, they'll change. So you can see distance, 881 miles. So we're going from short distance to long distance. If I click it again, it'll go the other way round. Longest distance mission at the moment is 1,418 miles. Shortest distance mission at the moment is 278 miles. And it will generate jobs based on the aircraft in your fleet, but also those settings that are on there. Now, you can also look at your aircraft and see, oh, my aircraft can only carry 20,000 pounds of cargo or something like that. So what you could do is you could list via quantity, like this, and you can see, oh, my aircraft can only carry 20,000 pounds, so I can't do that one in one trip, and I can't do that one, and I can't do that one, and I can't do that one, blah, blah, blah. So I can come down the list to here, and I can say, all right, now we're into the realm of things that I can fly, like this. So this is kind of useful looking on here, what job you want to take. Normally what I do is I do this, boom, fee. Now, lowest fee there, so I'm clicking it again, highest fee, because you want to make money. So I can see that there is a job to fly cell phones from Liverpool John Lennon Airport. So that's nice and easy because it's at my base of operations, and it's to LFPO, which is Orly in Paris. Now, if you not sure about these codes, then you can see the distance of it, 340 miles, so you know that this is pretty close to you, but you can check it on the map as well if you want to, so we can see straight line distance there to Paris Orly, or we can go off the distance, or we can look down here at the job details and we can see from Liverpool John Lennon Airport to Paris Orly. Now we can get some information about this. We could see that I have runway 9 and 27. They are about 7,500 feet, and I can go and look at Paris Orly, and I could say, all right, runway 2 is 7,862 feet, runway there, blah, 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 blah. So there is an 11,000 foot runway on there, so I know where I'm going and has it got an ILS and all that kind of stuff. So you've got all that kind of stuff on there that you can do, and that's how you determine what jobs you're going to fly. Now, if you're interested in doing a job, what you can do is you can click it on the list like that, and then you can tick this accept job, and then if you do that, it will appear in your accepted jobs list. I haven't done that yet, so there's nothing in my accepted job list. Now, if I excuse me, if I happen to have hired a pilot and bought another aeroplane in my fleet, what I can do is I can assign that job to an AI pilot as well. So if I happen to have 2 Lockheed Constellations at Liverpool John Lennon Airport, and I've got a couple of pilots capable of flying that at the airport, what I can do is I can say assign to AI, and then a screen will pop up and it'll say which plane do you want them to use and which pilots do you want to fly, and then you can hit OK. You can do that even if the pilots and the aircraft are not at that airport. Let's say they're at I don't know, Dublin in Ireland with a Constellation, but you want them to fly that job from Liverpool to Paris. You can assign a job to them, and what they will do, you don't have to do anything more. What they will do is they will get in the plane, they will take off from Dublin, they will fly to Liverpool John Lennon Airport, they will pull up, they will load the aircraft, then they'll taxi out, then they'll fly it and what have you. Now, the other thing that you have to bear in mind with jobs is they have a time limit. You can see here that this job that we were looking at, the one from Liverpool to Paris, flying a cargo of cell phones, expires in 3 days, 16 hours and 15 minutes. Now, that's worth bearing in mind if it's a particularly big job. Let's say I've only got an aircraft that can carry 10,000 pounds of cargo. Now, this means that what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do it in 4 trips, because that's nearly 40,000 pounds of cargo, which means that I'm actually going to have to make 8 flights, because I'm going to have to fly initially to there with 10,000 pounds of it, then I'm going to have to fly back, possibly empty, then I'm going to have to go again, then I'm going to have to go again. And if you're not in the mood to fly 8 flights in one big marathon session of Flight Simulator, you have to bear in mind that, let's say you do a couple of them and you get your plane back to Liverpool, and then it's bedtime or what have you, or you've got to get up to go to work the next day or what have you. Keep in mind that clock carries on ticking when you quit the program. So if you wait 2 days and then you fire up air hauler again and you go, right, I'm going to carry on flying this cargo, that will have ticked down in the interim, and it will probably then say 1 hour and 10, 1 day and 10 hours or something like that. So these things, the clock is always ticking. The difference with AI pilots is they never sleep. So you want some AI pilots in your flight, and as long as there is enough time for them to fly backwards and forwards and do it all, they will do it for you. So that's an important thing to keep an eye on when the job expires. Now, so you pick one of those jobs, you can pick as many as you like. So there is nothing stopping you from looking down this list and finding if there are 2 jobs that are there. So we can see that. I can see there's another one here that is also to Orly in Paris that has 20,310 pounds, and you'd get 87 grand for that. So you'd get 264 grand plus 80 odd grand if you could do both of them. Now, that means that if you had something like a Boeing 747 that you could fit all that cargo on, you could get that job, you could accept it, you could scroll down, you could get the other job, you could accept it, and then you could load all of the cargo on and do it in one go. That's how you make a lot of money at it. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. If you'd prefer to just have it as an interesting thing that can generate jobs at random airports for you so that you can have an excuse to fly your Cessna to somewhere that you wouldn't normally go, it's fine, you can use it for that. But if you want to use it to sort of create your empire and all this sort of thing and end up getting more and more planes and hiring more and more pilots, you can do that if you want to. And there are quite a few things that you can do to have it sort of automate the process of that as well, which we'll have a look at in a moment. So that's how the job stuff works, and we'll come back and have a look at that when I've accepted a job. Now, the next bit that you can see up here is you can see routes. Now, you can, even though it's a cargo airline, there is nothing to stop you creating a passenger route as well. So what you can do is you can see you have no aircraft which are configured for passenger flights. Please configure an aircraft for passenger flight. So what I would have to do is I would have to buy or lease an aircraft that is capable of carrying passengers, because at the moment I've only got a Lockheed Constellation configured for cargo. So what I would have to do is I would have to go and maybe go and buy an ATR 72 or a Dash 8 Q400 or something like that. Once I've got that, what I can do is I can click on this thing and I can say, oh, like I'd like to open a route to another airport. Now, the problem here is that you have to have another base to do that. So if I had that in mind, if I perhaps wanted to create a passenger route to Paris, Charles de Gaulle or something like that, what I would actually have to do is I would have to fly an aircraft to Paris Charles de Gaulle, because you have to have an aircraft based where you are opening a base. And once I've done that, what I can then do is I can say I would like to open a base at Paris Charles de Gaulle. Now, it doesn't open instantly, and it charges you money for it as well. There is weekly rental for it, blah, 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 blah. And there's also an initial construction cost, and you can have a really basic base, so you can have one that's got like a fuel depot and all this kind of stuff. So it's very detailed in what you can do. But if you're going to do a passenger route, you have to have another base, because you can only create routes between two bases. That's simulating the fact that you would need a departure lounge or some handling staff there and all that kind of stuff. You couldn't just drop some passengers off and kick them off the plane and go, all right, you're on your own. So it simulates that. So if I get that in place, if I create another base at Paris, what I can then do is I can create a route. And once I've created a route, what I can do is I can say, oh, I'd like it to operate 10 times a day. So I could have it first flight of the day at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it arrives in Paris an hour later, and then I could have half an hour break, and then it flies a return flight back to the UK, and then half an hour break, and then it does back and forth, and I could have it make 8 trips a day or something like that. Now, in order to do that, what I need is I need enough pilots to be able to do that. You can't just have 2 pilots flying it day in, day out like that, because obviously they need to rest, and you need several pilots. So you might need 6 pilots certified on the aircraft that you're going to put on the route. So it is detailed in how all that works, but it's fairly easy to set up, because if you set up 1 day's worth of routes between the 2 airports, then you can simply copy and paste it and say, yeah, I've set it up for Monday, I want it to run on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and that's easy. And then you can say, right, well, I want it every month throughout the year. So it's fairly easy to set up. Now, in addition to that, what you can do is you can decide how posh your service is. You can say, oh, I'd like an in-flight food service, and you can decide how much you want to charge for a ticket on the thing, so you can have it be a luxury service. You can set whatever price you want, and offset against the cost of the fuel and how much it costs to operate the aircraft, and how much your pilot's wages are, and how much it costs to keep your bases running and all this sort of thing, your monthly fees for that. You can determine how much you want to make off it. So if you want to do all that kind of airline management stuff, you can, and it's very, very detailed how you do all that kind of stuff. Now, you can also create an ad hoc flight, where you just do a one-off charter flight that's a passenger flight, and that's another fun thing that you can do. So it isn't just flying boxes of cargo from one place to another. You can do all this kind of stuff as well. Now, there are also missions available, and there are humanitarian missions. So, and the missions are kind of a little bit more than you might imagine. So when we look at the available missions, you can see here that there is a courier mission from EGGP, Liverpool John Lennon Airport, to EGET. Now, if you don't know where EGET is, what you can do is you can go and look down here and find out where that is. Yeah. So you can see that it is Tingwall, Lerwick. Now, if we click on that and you don't know where that is, you can see that it's up there. So you don't have to know what all these codes are or even know where these places are. You can always look on the map. Now, it says distance 415 miles, client, blah, 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 reputation, and it says what they need here. Now, you can kind of expand this, and it says, I need someone to take 5,121 pounds of courier documents from EGGP up to there, blah, 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 and it has to be completed within 114 minutes of takeoff. So it's a bit of a challenge, yeah? And it expires in 1 day, 7 hours and 50 minutes. Now, since it's got to be completed in 114 minutes, it means that your flight can only take about 2 hours. Yeah. Now it's 415 miles, so you are not going to be able to do it in a DC-3 or something like that. You're going to need something that can do probably at least 250 miles an hour. Yeah. So you're not going to do it in a Cessna or what have you, and also you've got to have something capable of carrying that amount of weight. So I could do that in my Constellation if I wanted to, because certainly a Constellation can fly 415 miles in 114 minutes. Absolutely, it can do that. But you'll notice another thing here. It says that the guy is wary and you need a reputation of 30%. Now, you'll note that when we were starting our company, it said, oh, you can start it on easy and you can have a 60% reputation. That's what all this is about. Some jobs you will not be able to accept if your reputation is low, and your reputation increases by the amount of jobs that you fly, and that's also true for your virtual pilots that you employ as well. So that's one of the reasons why you fly stuff. If you make nice landings all the time, because Air Hauler monitors your landings and it monitors your flight to make sure you're not pulling massive G's and stuff like that. So you've got to keep people happy and all this sort of thing, and eventually your reputation increases. So some things are dependent upon your reputation, and we'll see more of that in a minute. So there are missions. Now you'll notice that there are also humanitarian missions. Now this is an interesting thing with Air Hauler, in that it's not a program that's just been created and then left. It does access things that are current. So when it gets near Christmas, you start seeing jobs to generate delivering tinsel to places and delivering Christmas cakes and all this kind of stuff. And at Easter, it's like, oh, fly a bunch of Easter eggs to here or something like that. But interestingly, it says humanitarian missions here. And if we have a look at the humanitarian missions here, you can see that it has something that relates to the present situation. It says here, emergency medical supplies. Aid. As the UK continues on a domestic social distancing and stay-at-home campaign, the UK government and the National Health Service is requesting donations of emergency medical supplies to build stocks for the peak of cases and infections anticipated in June. Anyone who can produce such supplies is being asked to assist. So this program, takes into account stuff that's currently going on, which is kind of cool that it does that. It says there's another one. With Spain in full lockdown as non-essential workers are asked to stay at home and an increase in deaths involving COVID-19, the authorities desperately require donations of medical supplies. So it is current, this stuff. France has declared war against COVID-19, reporting its highest single death toll. To that end, blah, blah, blah. So you've got all of this kind of stuff here that is current, and that's one of the nice things about Air Hauler, is that there is stuff that's going on that is current and is in the real world, even though this is a program that came out in 2016. You can see they haven't left it alone. This isn't a program that was developed in 2016 and banged out, and then the developer hasn't looked at it. Clearly, it has to be picking up on stuff that is current, because this COVID-19 situation didn't even exist at the start of this year. So you know that the developer works on this thing constantly, which is pretty cool. Excuse me. Just coughing there, and don't worry, it isn't COVID-19. It's probably too many cigarettes. So there are a lot of interesting missions that you can fly. Now, radar, boom, like that. If I click on that, you can see some aircraft in flight, and you can see this chat room. Now, you can see that someone is in flight here, and there's another person in flight here, and these are actual people that are flying currently in air hauler. There is someone called Steve B that's flying a PMDG 777, and there is someone there, if I move the map over a little bit, there is someone called Jokey that's flying a Douglas DC-3 in Paint 2, whatever that is, you know, obviously the livery that it's using. There's someone with the Aerosoft A321 Professional there. There's another person there with another A320. There's someone in a Cessna Skyhawk there. And if we keep on zooming out that map, someone there doesn't say what they are. Oh, yes, it does. Boeing 737, which is at Dusseldorf. And there we go. There's someone there, and there's someone there. And if we carry on zooming out, you can see this. So this is a bit like that flight radar 24 that you go on. You can see all of these aircraft here are people who are currently playing air hauler. Someone down there in South Africa is in a PMDG 747-400. Someone's in a Cessna Grand Caravan down there in Brazil. Blah blah blah. And you can chat to these people if you want to. You can click on this. You can enter the chat, and you can you know, if you're flying, you can say, oh, the weather's a bit choppy over the English Channel. You can put a pilot report out if you want to. So it's kind of fun and social that you can do all that kind of stuff if you want to. And you can see there, it says there are currently 50 pilots flying. It's just dropped to 49. Someone's obviously just landed and ended their flight and what have you. There is a link to the Air Hauler 2 forums as well. The developer, as we've just seen, is very on the ball with this. If you have any problems, if you can't get one of your expensive payware add-on airplanes to work, there's some problem with it and what have you, the developer's very on the ball with that and can help you out with stuff like that. So that's kind of all the mission stuff in there. So let's have a look at this. Company information. Boom. This tab up here. Now, bases. I've only got one at the moment. It's Liverpool John Lennon Airport. If I try to open a base somewhere else, now you'll notice that I can close that base or open it, but if I try and open a base somewhere else, it's not going to let me because I haven't got a plane at another base. It's going to tell me that if I hit open base, you must have a pilot at an airport to open a base there. Sorry, I was saying that you needed a plane there, you needed a pilot there. So you need either you or one of your employed pilots to be there. Now, what you can actually do is you can hire a pilot, and he doesn't even have to have an aeroplane. What you can do is you can tell him to go to that place if you want to. Now, he will go there in real time, so it'll be the equivalent of him hopping on a plane on the jump seat and going there, you know what I mean, like airline pilots do in real life. And when he gets there, you've got a presence at that base, and then what you can do is you can open a base. Now we can see here a bit of information about my base. So base details. The opening cost was $205,000. It was opened on 4/30/2020. It doesn't have any fuel stock there because I haven't added a depot to it, but I can do that if I want to. I can add capacity to it. So you can customize your bases if you want to and all this kind of stuff. And it says aircraft at base. There is a Lockheed L049 there. Its condition is 100% and it's got a range of 2,400. Is there any base commodity stock there? No, there isn't. Is there an airport chart for it? Yes, there is. So you can get an airport chart for it if you want to. So it's kind of cool that it's got all this stuff in it. So that's my bit on bases. Not a lot to report because I've only just opened up one base. And what I need to be doing is I own my aircraft, so I don't have to pay any rental on it, but I can insure it so that if I do a heavy landing on the thing, the insurance can be used to pay for the repair. You have to pay for that. But at the moment, the only real costs that I've got on the monthly rental of the base, which is £36,155 a month. Yeah. Now, what that means is that I need to be making at least that every month in order to make my company viable. Now, that is why what is a smart thing to do when you're playing all air hauler is to set up some passenger routes and get some passenger planes, hire some pilots and set up a schedule, and that will continuously make money for you. So if you're busy for a couple of weeks and you don't look at air hauler, in the background, it is still making money. So it's kind of cool that it does that, because what it will do is you don't necessarily fire up the program for a couple of weeks, then you fire it up when you're in the mood to play with it, and what it will do is it'll take maybe a minute or two to load, because what it will do is it'll analyze what's happened over the past couple of months, generate it all and generate the money and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun that it does all that kind of stuff. So bases, not much to report other than the fact that it's costing us 36 grand a month to keep that base open. Now, fleet wise, we've got this. It's a Cargo LO49. It's not damaged. We've not used it. Its condition is 100%. We can fly the aircraft. We can load the aircraft. Now, if we hit load the aircraft like that, any cargo that is available to load. So if I take a job at Liverpool Airport, let's say I take that mobile phone job, what I will see is I will see that able to be loaded. So let's do that. Let's go on the jobs. Let's go available jobs. There's EGGP to LFPO, £37,000 of cargo for a cost of, you'd get paid £264,744 if you do it within the allotted time, which is 3 days and 15 hours. So plenty of time to do it, because it's only a few hundred miles. It's 340 miles. So that's a good job. So let's accept it. So we go, accept job. Do you want to accept that job? Yes, I do. It disappears off that list, and now it's on my accepted job list. Now, because it's on my accepted job list, I can load the cargo. So let's go to my fleet here. There's my 049 Constellation, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the cargo onto it. So cell phones, 37,079 cargo. Now, if I hit that to load it, it says there is only 5,906 pounds of capacity left on this aircraft. Do you want to load that amount? Now, do I want to load that amount? Well, hold on there for a second. Let's see what fuel we've got on the aircraft at the moment. You can see that on board we've got 28,000 pounds of fuel, which giving us an estimated range of 2,408 nautical miles. Now, our job is a cargo job that is only to Paris. It's only about 400 miles. So we do not need to be carrying that amount of fuel. So what we can do is we can offload some fuel, which will increase our cargo capacity. So let's do that. Let's shove this thing up. We'll say offload some fuel. Now, offload to disposal. What do you want to do? Do you want to offload that? Let's take that much out, like that. And we'll offload the fuel. The fuel has been offloaded. Now, we have an estimated range of 592 nautical miles, which is pushing it a little bit to fly to Paris, but we can make it. So, what can we load on now? Load. Now, there is only 27,197 pounds capacity on here. So you can see that if we're prepared to offload fuel or carry the right amount of fuel, we can carry more cargo. So what you don't do is you don't fire up your planes with 100% fuel on them. You have to actually think about how much fuel you're going to carry. Have you got enough to make it? What if the weather's rubbish when you get there and you have to divert and stuff like that? So you have to treat it like the real thing. Now, if I put that amount on, that maximum amount, and have that fuel on there, I'm going to be at MTOW at maximum takeoff weight, and I'm going to be not much of a reserve on the fuel. So what I can do is I can say, well, actually, I don't want to chance it. Let's have enough fuel to make about 700 miles. So that's nearly twice the distance. So if it all goes horribly wrong when we're halfway there, we can probably turn around and head back to Liverpool Airport. So I've got more suitable fuel on the thing there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load that on there, and it says there is only that much cargo on there. Do you want to load that, man? Well, that will put me at MTOW, so I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a part load like that, and I'm going to put £20,000 of cargo on there like that. So because there's no way I'm going to fit all of it on there, so I'm definitely going to have to do this in 2 trips, but I can definitely fit that in on the other one, on the other trip, because it's less than I've got there. So that will be a sensible thing to do. So I've definitely got enough fuel to make the trip, and I've definitely got some of the cargo on board there like that. So now, notice that I had to buy that fuel. I've got that plane ready to go. I'm not flying it yet, but it is ready to go. So that's what you can do with your fleet. You can kind of load it, mess around with it, and what have you. Now, obviously, if I'm operating this plane, I could have an accident with it. I could veer off the runway by accident. I could do a heavy landing or something like that. It's currently in 100% condition, and it's 50 hours to its A check, and 100 hours to its B check, and 300 hours to its C check. You have to pay for all these, by the way. So what I might do is I might insure it. So I'm going to take out insurance. It will cost £70,000 per month payable in advance. Now, how much money have I got? Well, let's have a look at that. I'm just going to look there. Just on the bottom of the screen, you can see I've got £1,998,498. Yeah, which means that I've got more than enough money to be able to take out insurance. So yes, I will take out insurance for it. So if I do a heavy landing with this plane, I'm going to do that. But keep in mind, that is now a monthly cost. So now I've got to make even more money per month to cover the cost of that. And keep in mind that we're also paying for maintenance on the thing, we're paying for the fuel, and so on and so forth, landing fees at the airport. So it's not all roses. This is very realistic how it operates. Yeah. Now, pilots and ops there. Have I got any other pilots? No, I haven't got any other pilots. So it's not listing any at the moment. We'll have a look at that in a moment. So info. Let's get some info about. My company name is Chocks Hangar Review. My reputation is 60. My passenger reputation is 60. Blah, 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 blah. I've not done anything yet, so there is no log. There will be a plotted graph here eventually. This is where I can mess around with adding a company logo if I want. So there's not much info at the moment. Finance-wise, let's have a look at that. Now, because we're on the first day of operations, there isn't much to report. Base cost there, blah, blah, blah. You can see that outgoing in the last 30 days is £71,745,000 because I've just taken out insurance that cost me that much. So that's added to my outgoings, which means that my monthly overhead, if you include the cost of the base and the cost of that, is £106,398. Now, this means that I need to make at least £106,398 a month at the moment if I don't spend any more money on anything else in order to break even. But we know that I've just taken on a cargo job that's going to pay £264,000, and that's one cargo job. So if I do that, I'm already in the green. So don't get frightened by the money and think, oh, it's going to be really hard to make money. You've just got to be a bit sensible. But it is worth keeping an eye on this kind of thing if you want to. Now, so that's the finance thing. There's the office thing. Personal information. Now, there's nothing much to report here. Personal fleet. I haven't got any personal fleet. They're all company aircraft. I haven't got a flight log at the moment because I haven't done that. I haven't got any airports visited, and I haven't really got any achievements other than entrepreneur and first hull. I bought my first aircraft and I've started a company in air hauler. If I have 5 fleet in my aircraft, I'll get this award. If I get 10 aircraft, I'll get that. If I complete a cargo job, I'll get this award. So if I complete that job to Paris Orly, that one's going to light up. So, you know, it's got all these things that you can track. And whenever you achieve one of them, a little thing appears in the bottom right-hand corner and a cheering voice plays. Now, I can add a new type rating as well, and I am going to need to do that before I can fly that cargo job, because I can't fly the Constellation at the moment. I don't have a type rating for it, so I've got to get a type rating first. Type ratings are pretty simple. What it does is, when you say you want a type rating, what it does is it cranks up your flight simulator, loads up your aeroplane. It asks you to start it up, taxi it out to the runway. It's a bit like a check ride. It asks you to take off. Then what it does is it will tell you to climb to a specific altitude and turn on a specific heading. Then what it does is, when you've done that, so it'll say climb to 5,000 feet and steer 140 degrees. So you do that. Then it'll say, when you've done that, it'll say, now climb to 7,200 feet and steer 036 degrees, and you do that. And then it'll make you do a couple of others. It'll say maintain 7,200 and steer 180 degrees, or what have you. So it'll get you to fly a few headings and a few different altitudes and what have you. And eventually, when you've proved that you've done that, it gets you to do about 4 or 5 of them. Eventually, what it will then do is it will say, okay, return to your departure airport. So what you do is you return to the airport that you took off from, and you land it. And providing you don't do a horrible landing, and you didn't overbank the aircraft or pull a massive amount of G's or anything like that, as long as you flew the aircraft well, you get your type rating. So that's kind of fun, that it will do that, and not dissimilar to what you get in the real world when you do a check ride. And we are going to have to do that in a minute or two. So that was the first tab. That's the second tab with the company information. Now, you can use Airhauler to be the management software for a virtual airline. I'm sure you've come across virtual airlines. So if we do this virtual airline, you can do all this kind of stuff. If you want to, you can set up your website, have your VA chat and all this kind of stuff. So you can use Airhauler too as your management software for a virtual airline if you want. If you've got a virtual airline and you didn't know that, or if you're in a virtual airline and the people that run it didn't know that, then bear in mind that they could use this, and it's kind of cool. It's saved you a lot of work. Now, factories and construction. Now, in addition to being able to open bases, what you can also do is you can open factories and you can start producing stuff. You can set up a factory, so you can see open a new factory, and then what you can choose is what that factory is going to produce. And so what you have to do is you have to start managing, it needs the raw materials and all this kind of stuff and what have you. Now that relates to this, because you can see stock finder on here. Now, what commodity do you want to find? There are lots of different commodities you can see here: aircraft parts, animal feed, batteries. Now, in amongst all of this, you can see medicines there, like that. Show distance from. So you can find these medicines. So you can go and get these commodities and take them to your factory. So if you need medicines and I don't know, biscuits or something to make a first aid kit or something like that, you need to go and find medicines and biscuits to make your first aid kit. There isn't a first aid kit in there, but you get the idea. So you've got those commodities. But you'll remember that what we saw on the jobs was that there were humanitarian missions, and it said that you needed to get medical supplies to the UK or to France or to Spain. There were a few of those humanitarian missions. Now, there are a few ways that you can go around about that. You could have a factory that produces medicines and you could effectively supply your own stuff, or alternatively, you can go and find stuff like that, and then what you can do is you can buy it and you can go and take it there. So there are a number of ways that you can complete the mission. So if you really want to get into sort of like running a massive empire that isn't just an airline but is also producing other stuff and what have you, then you can do all that factory stuff as well. Yeah, like that. Now, marketplace. There are a number of things that you can do. You can buy aircraft. Now, at the moment, what I've got is I've got an L049 Lockheed Constellation. But let's say I want another aircraft as well. Well, there are a few ways that I can go about that. There are private sales. So let's have a look at that. Now, private sales. Now, you can see that these are not new aircraft. Now, Some of these are payware aircraft that I've imported into Air Howler, and it will recognize that. So you can see that the Majestic Dash 8 Q400 is an aircraft that I own, and I've imported it into Air Hauler. So now it recognizes it. So because it recognizes it and it's on my system, it's putting it as though there are second-hand ones for a sale somewhere and what have you. So we can see that there is a Dash 8 Q400 for Skywork Airlines. Its condition is 78%. Someone is selling it. They're selling it for this price here. So let's expand that a little bit. So they're selling it for rather a lot of money. And it is located there. So if I decide that I want to buy that thing, what I can do is I can buy it, but I'll have to go and get it. Now, you can choose to have it delivered, but you have to pay for it. So what I would have to do is I would have to get to the airport that it's located at, go and get the thing. Now, you can see the condition of it is 78%. So it might have instruments on it that don't work. You know, the flaps might be broken on it or something like that. So it might be a bit of a challenge to fly it back. Now, you could get to the airport, take delivery of it, repair it at the airport, and then fly it back or something like that. Or you could fly it back in a broken condition and repair it at your own airport if you wanted to, which would be a little bit cheaper. So, you know, if you want to buy aircraft and repair them, this can be a cheaper way to go about it. But any aircraft that you can see on here, there'll be either the default ones in your flight sim or ones that you've imported. So you can see that I've got the black box simulations, Airbus A340 imported into the sim, and I've got the iFly 747-800 in the sim and what have you. And so what it's doing is it's generating broken ones of those. So there's a flight replicas, another payware aircraft there, Canadair North Star C54. At 51%, so that'll be a right wreck, but you can see that it's actually not a terrible price. It's 3.8 million, which, you know, is not a bad price. Now, if you want, you can also buy these new if you want to. So these are private sales, and you've got to weigh up whether you think it's worth repairing and how easy is it to get back to where you want it to be so you can start using it. But you can, if you keep an eye on this, you can get some bargains. If you want, on the other hand, to buy new aircraft, you go on this thing here, and this lists all the new aircraft on there. Now, by default, what it does is it lists all the aircraft that are default aircraft in your sim, but what you can do is you can add any aircraft that you have installed on your system to it. So you can see that, for example, I have the Lionheart Simulations Bellanca Viking Turbo in here, and I've got the FlySimware Cessna 441 Conquest there, and I've also got the next generation CJ4 and the Douglas DC-8. I think that's the Aerosoft one. So you can get all these things in the sim if you want to, but they don't all appear by default. So what you would have to do is, if there is an airplane that you've got a payware airplane, let's say you've got, I don't know, the PMDG 737 or whatever, and you want to get it in the sim, what you have to do is you have to bring it into the sim. And to do that, what you have to do is you have to go to this management tab here, and you have to go to aircraft management here, boom, like that. And then what you can do is you can import an aircraft. Now, what happens when you do that is you can import an aircraft from the list. So these are all the ones that it's finding. But if it isn't finding an aircraft that you want to import, what you can do is you can browse for the air file. So you can navigate to your flight simulator, go into sim objects, go to the aircraft folder, go and find the aircraft and go in the folder, click on the air file, and you can bring it in if you want to. So we can see that the consolidated PBY Catalina there, which is an Aerosoft payware add-on airplane, or the Boeing B-17 is another payware airplane that I could bring in. So let's bring this one in. Consolidated PBY 5A Catalina. let's get that one in, the 6A. Better landing gear configuration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import that one. Boom, like that. So it asks me, do I want both paint jobs in for that? Do I want Calypso and Black Cat? Yeah or no, it's entirely up to you. So I hit OK. It's going to bring both of them in, and then I'm going to hit import. And then what it will do is it will say, aircraft imported successfully. Please review the aircraft details and adjust as necessary. So it'll look at the airfile and it'll take a guess at what the specs of that aeroplane are. And normally it does a pretty good job, but you can tweak them if you want to. So you can see cruise speed, 137 knots, range 2,202 miles, fuel consumption, 109 US gallons per hour, maximum passengers 16, flap damage speed, 0. Now I could change that if I wanted to. Gear damage speed 0. So I could say, right, let's have the gear damage speed be 150 miles an hour. So you can't go more than 150 miles an hour with the gear down, blah, 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 and all that sort. So you can play around with all this stuff if you want. And when it comes in, it'll take a guess based on these specs of how much it should be. So it's going to, if I keep these specs like that, it's going to say that it's going to cost £2,962,604, i.e. almost £3 million, which I should imagine if you could get an airworthy consolidated PBY Catalina for £3 million, it'd be well worth buying, because I'm pretty sure one would cost you a lot more than that. But let's hit OK, like that. So now on the list will be that consolidated PBY Catalina. So if I decided that I wanted to buy one, I can do that. But you will notice that there isn't, this isn't where you actually buy it. This is the list that was for importing things. So that's how you bring them in. Eventually, if I look on the marketplace, eventually that versions of that Catalina might start turning up as private sales, but it takes a while for it to generate those things, and there's no guarantee that it will appear as a private sale, but you absolutely can guarantee that it will be available as a new sale. So when we look on the aircraft thing there, probably down at the bottom of the list, there is Calypso, and there is Black Cat, the Aerosoft PBY Catalina, and these versions are the ones with the GPS in, so they'd be a little bit more useful. And you can see here the price of the thing, so we can get a little bit of information. Now, of course, these are things that I could use on seaplane bases, which I said that I wasn't going to use, but we can find out a little bit of information about it. So it's got an MTOW of 35,419. It's got a cargo capacity of 7,000, so not great on cargo capacity, but bear in mind that it's got a range of 2,000 miles, so if we don't take as much fuel, the cargo capacity is probably a lot more than 7,000. It's probably double that. Now, if I want to buy it new, £2.9 million. If I want to lease it, £370,000 a month. Yeah. So when you're starting out, you can, if there's a plane that you like, but you haven't made enough money with your company, leasing it is an option. When you lease things, you do get the option to buy it out if you want to, like that. So that's how you can get other aircraft in the fleet. Now, you can go private sales or you can go aircraft. Now, if I wanted to buy this and I've only got £1.8 million to my name and this thing's £3 million, I can't buy it. But what I can do is I can do this, loans and banking. Boom. And it will tell me how much money I can borrow. You can borrow up to £10,080,000 at an 18% rate of repayment. Yeah. So if I say, oh wow, yeah, I do want to borrow that because I want to buy that plane. I've already got £1 million and I need a couple more million. So I can say, right, well, I would like to borrow. Let's give myself a bit of a buffer. I'm going to borrow £4 million, like that. So it's going to tell me, yeah, you can borrow £4 million. And your monthly repayments are going to be £60,000, so that's an additional cost. But it does mean that what I would be able to do is I would be able to have that aircraft straight away. So I take out the loan, it will give me the money instantaneously, and then I can go and buy that plane. Now you'll notice that it says I can borrow it at 18% interest. Yeah. Now that is because my reputation is rubbish at the moment. Yeah. I've got a 60% reputation. If I do some more jobs and get my reputation up, I will then be able to hire better pilots. I'll be able to get loans at a better rate. I'll be able to get more missions and all this kind of stuff. So that's why you get your reputation up. Now, the other thing that I could do is I could, and I know that I would also have to take a type rating for that before I could fly it. But what I could do, if I really desperately wanted one of those, I could take out that bank loan, I could go and buy the thing, and then I could go and see if there are any virtual crew available who can fly that plane. I shouldn't imagine there are at the moment because I've only just been ported it into the sim, and it takes it a while to generate things. But let's have a look at the crew that you can get. So, there are all these different crew members that you can hire. Now, they have different ranks and they have limits of what they can do. They grow as they get more experience. So you can hire experienced pilots or you can hire inexperienced pilots, and the more flights they do and the more ratings you give them and all that kind of stuff, the better their reputation will be and their skill level will go up and all this kind of stuff. And so you can do that kind of thing. But I will caution you that if you're going to do this, if you see someone that seems cheap to hire, like for example, Isabel Oldacre here, who is only a monthly salary of £944, she only has 1 rating on the Mooney Bravo. And not only that, her reputation, her rank is wannabe. Now that means that there is a very good chance that she will do a heavy landing and damage your plane, and then you'll have to pay for repairs. So if you've got someone who's got a much better rating, so if you've got someone who's got an airline transport pilot license or a second officer or this, you can see that not only does it change how much they can actually take off with. So you can see this second officer guy here has an MTOW rating of that there, which is way more than her. So if you have a look at this guy, he's got ratings on the Piper Cub, the Lockheed P-38 Lightning, the Mark 31, whatever the hell that is, the F-22 Raptor, the 49 Constellation. So he could fly my Constellation. He can fly a B-29 Super Fortress, and he can fly a Vulcan B Mark II. So he's got, this is basing it on aircraft that I've got on my system, plus default aircraft in the flight sim and what have you. But he can fly a Constellation. So what I could do is I could say, right, we'll have you because you can fly an 049A Constellation. So we go, right, let's hire you. And do you want to hire Kevin Bailey for 11,120 more for a month? Yes, I do. Yeah, where do you want him to be? I want him to be at Liverpool because it's the only base that I've got. Now, it cheers. And I've got one of those awards because I've hired a pilot. Now, let's have a look and keep going. So, you got this guy, you got there, you got there, you got there. Let's have a look. You got this guy here, like that. Blah, 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 blah. Now, the reason I'm carrying on looking is the Constellation might require 2 pilots to fly it. Might not necessarily, but it might do. We'll find out in a minute. But I've currently hired a crew member. Now, if I look at my crew now, so if I go here and I go company information and I go pilots and ops, there's Kevin Bailey. Here he is, and what we can see is his skills. So he's rated on all these things here, and here is his skill assignment. Now what happens is, as he flies jobs, he wins points, skill points, and when he's got skill points, they appear listed here. And when he's got them, what you can do is you can click on this thing here and you can assign those skill points to different skills. So what I could do is I could say, right, I'd like to assign a skill point to having his slot times relaxed, or I'd like him to damage the aircraft a bit less, so there'll be a less chance of him damaging it, or I want him to load cargo faster, or I want him to board passengers faster, and so on and so forth. Or when he buys fuel at a destination, I want him to do it cheaper and things like that. So you can build up this guy's skills and all this kind of stuff. So you can have your pilots have a little bit of a personality, if you like. You can give them a type rating as well if you want. So you could hire a pilot and you could say, oh, well, you don't know how to fly the Constellation. Well, let's get you a type rating on it and what have you. It takes a few days for them to do that. And whilst they are doing it, your constellation will not be available to fly cargo missions because it'll be being used for a cargo rating. So this is all realistic and pretty much as you'd expect. So if we now go here and we go accepted jobs here, that cargo job there, I could say I want to assign it to AI. So I can hit assign to AI, the Lockheed constellation, okay, like that. Now choose a pilot. Now drag a pilot. Now you'll notice that I have not got a pilot available for it. Now, why have I not got a pilot available for it? Well, let's check that out. On my fleet, a 1049A Constellation, like that. And let's go and look at my company information, pilots and ops, like that. And he's got a 049 Constellation, C69. So he hasn't got the same constellation rating. Now, this means that you've got to really watch it on this kind of thing, because it goes, oh, constellation, he can fly a constellation, but he can't fly that model. Yeah, this can really catch you out. Yeah, you've got to be really careful when you bring pilots in, that they have the exact rating, because if they haven't, then what you have to do is you have to go, oh, get him a type rating on there, like that. Or alternatively, what you could do is you could go, right, well, he can fly an 049A Constellation or a C69. So what I could do is I could go, all right, well, let's go to the market and let's lease one of those constellations, or let's buy one. And then it's like, oh, I've got 2 aircraft in my fleet and all this kind of stuff. So there's ways around it. I could give them a type rating or what have you. But these are all things that you've got to bear in mind. Yeah. That's a little bit about that. On the marketplace, so you can hire crew, you can buy aircraft, you can import aircraft on the management thing, you can borrow money, you can go for private sales and all this sort of thing. That was that management stuff that we've got. Now, you can see that what we've got is we've got airport management as well, custom airports and import scenery. Now, if for some reason your copy of Airhauler is not detecting a custom airport scenery that you've got in your sim and you know it works and all that kind of stuff in the sim, then what you can do is you can manage that. You can bring all that kind of stuff in if you want to. And that about does it on how this thing works. Yeah. And so what I will do is I'll just finish off by showing you what happens when you get a type rating and how you go about doing that. So let's go here and we'll go personal information. So I need a type rating on the Lockheed constellation because I've not got one. You can see here it's right there, absolutely nothing. I'm only rated on the DC-6C there, like that. That's the only rating I've got. Now I could, if I wanted to, go and buy or lease a DC-6 to go and fly that cargo job. But alternatively, what I can do is I can say add a new type rating. Now, because it's recognizing that I have a constellation in my fleet, what it can do is it can say, right, well, go and get the type rating for that. So that would cost me £11,577 and 27 pence. In order to attain this type rating, you will need to complete a short flight within the given limits. So you go, okay, pay and take the flight test now. So there's my constellation. It's got those cell phones loaded on it, and it's got that fuel on it. So what I could do if I wanted to is I could load that off if I wanted to, if I don't want to be doing the type rating while it's got that stuff on it and it's a heavy weight. Or alternatively, what I can do is I can just go, okay, yeah, well, we'll just go and fly that anyway. So what happens now, I'm going to think about it for a second. Now you'll see that it flashed up just very briefly that it was loading, and you'll notice it did find prepared 5. So there you go, it will actually find the right sim. Now what it's got here is it says flight sim connection status, and there's a little sort of red light on there at the minute, because what it's doing is it's currently loading P3D in the background. So whilst it's doing that, what I can do is I can go, oh, cargo unloading, yeah, do I want a bit more fuel on it? Do I want to offload those cell phones? Well, yeah, let's get them off the plane. So that if something goes horribly wrong, at least we've not lost the cargo like that. And we've got enough fuel for the flight test. We've got a range of 703 nautical miles like that. So in the background, P3D will be loading up. Now, eventually when P3D loads up, I can go to the sim, I'll be sat in that constellation, and it will bring up the message at the top of the screen going, start your engines. So you start your engines, and if you alt-tabbed out of P3D and came here, you'd see that what it would do is it would be reporting the engine is started. And then what you do is you taxi out to the runway, and then what it would do is if you alt-tabbed here, it would say that you're currently taxiing, and when you get to the runway, you take off, and when you take off, it'll go bing, and then a little message will appear in your flight simulator, and it will say climb to 5,000 feet and turn on a heading of 340 or something like that. If you do that, then it'll give you another heading and another altitude to steer to, and then another one, and then another one. And after it's done that about 4 or 5 times and you haven't messed up, what it will then do is it will say, okay, return to the original starting airport and land. If you do that and taxi in and shut down your engines and you do it all fine, it'll go, yay! And this will, you can come back into Air Hauler, and it will give you a little report of what your flight was like, and providing you haven't messed up, you hit OK, and that's how you get your type rating. So there you go. That's how Air Hauler works. I personally think it's great fun, and I think it can add a lot of interest to Flight Simulator. It can get you to fly to places that you wouldn't normally consider going. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can always go to airports that you've got nice scenery, but you can find yourself on the other side of the world, landing at places that you didn't even know existed, and that can be a fun challenge because some of the runways can be a little bit short, and then you're trying to fly cargo out of there, and you're really heavy because you want to make money, and you're like, oh, am I going to make it off the runway? Which is why I did that video the other day for my channel about the 50-70 rule, about whether you're going to make it off the runway, so all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Air Hauler, it's sold and developed by Just Flight. It's on their website. It's $32.99. There is an X-Plane 11 version of it coming out at some point, and I think it's one of the better add-ons that you can get for your flight simulator because it doesn't date. It's always a bit of fun. You can dip into it, or you can really throw yourself into it. You can leave it for weeks and come back to it and what have you, and it'll run itself and all that kind of stuff. And so it's really, really great fun. And as I say, this came out in 2016, and the original Air Hauler version 1 came out in 2009. And in both cases, I bought them on the day that they were released. In fact, I bought them in early access beta, and I still use it to this day. And if that doesn't tell you that it's a good program, then I don't know what will. Anyway, that's Air Hauler. So another shout out to my subscriber Railway Bobby, who asked me to do a bit of an overview review of it. Hope you enjoyed that, and hope everyone else did.